It's April 25th. What I want you guys to do today is, as you listen to this video, you have a blue packet that you need to fill out. This is an assignment, so at our next class, this is due. There may be there's probably two videos for this here, so make sure you understand that also. Wherever you see the lines, go ahead and make sure you do restate and answer. Some of the other things are going to be fill in the blank. Now, this fill in the blank stuff does not go word for word with the textbook. I'm going to present it. I kind of condensed it down. Instead of reading like 10 pages of it, I tried to put it into 5. The first thing I want you to do is this right here. Do the if you were there and go ahead and answer this question. You'll pause the video, make sure you restate that, think about it for a little bit, and then when you're ready to move on to the next part, go ahead and start it up. All right, so go ahead and pause it now, finish this part here. All right, so we now have a new economy, okay? Here's where you're going to start filling in the blanks. I'll try to just basically give you some idea. I'll try to say the words and things like that go in the blanks. I may add more than what's actually there in the packet. You just need to be able to understand which parts go into the blanks, and hopefully you'll get the information you need to fill out the answers to the questions also. All right, so a new economy. Now, the exchange or trade, so exchange is just another word for trade, of products between European countries of the Old World and their colonies in the New World drastically changed economic relations around the world. Now, Old World countries saw their colonies as a way to get rich. So remember, Old World is Europe, New World is the Americas, North and South America. All right, so go ahead. Who or what was getting rich from colonies? And then you can come back to this video. All right, so this new way of looking at colonies in the New World was part of an economic system called mercantilism. Now, mercantilism is a system in which a government controls all economic activities in a country and its colonies to make government stronger and richer. Right? Now, by the 1500s, a country's strength was measured by how much gold and silver it had. And under mercantilism, governments did everything they could to get more of these precious metals. Now, mercantilism was the main economic policy of many Old World countries, especially in Europe between 1500 and 1800. Okay, European countries such as Spain to begin with, they're going to use mercantilism as they colonize down in South America. England and France are going to see Spain getting rich and powerful off this system. That's why they will want to come across to the New World also and set up their own colonies. It's for power, it's for wealth. All right, so go ahead and answer that next question, and then you can come back to the video. All right, so now for mercantilism to truly work and make a European country rich, the European countries had to export more goods than they imported. You need to understand what export and import is. Export is the amount of goods that leave your country for other countries, such as around here in the United States, especially in the Midwest, we have so much more corn than we could ever use ourselves. So we export a lot of it to other countries around the world. Now for mercantilism, you want to do more exporting than importing. Okay? Importing is goods that you bring in that you buy from other countries. Think about like electronic parts that we buy a lot from Korea or China and places like that. Altogether, you want to have the value of more exports than imports every year. This relationship between goods imported and goods exported is known as a country's balance of trade. Colonies played a vital role in a country's balance of trade. European countries did not allow colonies to trade with other countries. They did not want their colonies' money to go to making any other country wealthy. This is a big deal. When Britain sets up their 13 colonies, they will make sure to pass laws as much as they can, telling those 13 colonies that they must only trade with Britain. That means any timber, any cotton, any tobacco, any furs, whatever it is. Whatever is produced in those 13 colonies or raw materials are taken from the land, they go straight to England. Then England will decide what to do with those raw materials. That way England's getting rich. Yeah, colonists maybe get a little bit out of it, but it's mainly those over in England, especially the government, that's getting rich off of this here. All right, so go ahead and answer that question about the importance of a balance of trade. Okay, now European countries used their colonies to acquire, which means to get, raw materials such as wood, fur, cotton, dyes. Dyes are things that color the clothing, things like that. This way, the European countries did not have to buy these raw materials from any other competing or enemy countries. They didn't want to have to buy materials from Spain because that's making Spain wealthy. They didn't want to have to buy materials from France because that would make France wealthy. So they wanted to only buy it from their colony, or take it actually from their colonies. Now, as a result of this here, what's going on is you have European countries would take these raw materials from the colonies, turn them into manufactured goods. So that means the raw material, let's say maybe lumber, timber, wood. They would take those raw materials, ship them to England, and then England would make the final product like a ship. And then England would sell that ship to other places around the world. And that's how the England itself would get rich off of this here, and then sell those goods back to the colonies even. The manufactured goods were more valuable than the raw materials. All right, so go ahead and answer that next question. Okay, so now because of all the trade, new markets opened up around the world for the manufactured goods. As a result, in Europe, manufacturing increased, especially cottage industries. Okay, cottage industries, it's kind of the precursor or the beginnings of factories, but it's a little bit different, so understand the subtle difference. Okay, a cottage industry was a system in which family members worked in their homes to make a part of a product. A business person gave each family the materials it needed, and the business person made money by selling the final product. So in this case here, let's take, for example, like cotton. Cotton would be grown in the American colonies. Then it would be shipped over to England, and it's over in England where you had these cottage industries, okay? Now, in a cottage industry, no one family would make a product from start to finish. So let's say you're trying to make that cotton into some kind of a clothing, like a shirt or pants or something like that. A family might, for instance, have the job of taking the seeds out of the cotton. So maybe the cotton first goes to, let's just pick a family, maybe it goes to the Malott family, and they're gonna pick out all of the seeds. And then that cotton is going to go to another family that will spin it into yarn. So a business person is going to come to the Malotts, and they're going to take it to the Sayers, and the Sayers are going to spin it into yarn. Well, once it's into yarn, then that business person is going to come back. They're going to take that yarn to another family. They take that yarn to the Williams house, and now they're going to take that and they're going to spin that yarn and make it into cloth. Now, once it's weaved into cloth, the cloth is going to be taken to another family, and that family is going to dip it into dyes. Okay, so maybe we have the David family is dipping it into dyes. And eventually, though, the merchant is going to take that dyed cloth, that finished product, and they're going to sell it. All those other families make a little bit. Let's say they sell that shirt or those pants for like $2. Each family might make 10 cents off of that product. It goes through 4 different families. That's 40 cents. The business person's going to make $1.60. Okay, so you're not getting rich by this cottage industry. But what it does is it is the beginning. It is the precursor of what is going to be like today's factory system. We had those 4 families doing it their piecemeal, piece by piece. Pretty soon in England, that's where it's going to start. In the mid-1700s, the factory system is going to come around where you take those 4 families, you put them all in one building. They leave their home each day, come to this building, and they do their work right inside one building. So instead of having to travel between 4 houses, it just travels right there around that room into 4 different places. That's the factory system that we know of today. All right, so go ahead and answer that question there. All right, so now we're going to do new trading patterns. We'll make this kind of the last one before we make a second video. All right, so new trading patterns has to deal with mercantilism is going to create new trading patterns around the world. So in the 1600s and 1700s, trade routes connected Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Americas. Many of these routes linked European countries with their colonies. One major trading pattern involved the exchange of raw materials, manufactured products, and enslaved African Americans among Europe, Africa, and the Americas. This particular trade network is the one that's going to become known as the triangular trade. Right? Unfortunate with that triangular trade and stuff like that. Okay, we have right here. You can see some of this, these trade patterns right here. Now, the triangular trade is going to be just basically between the old world Europe over here to the Americas. And the Americas also include like the Caribbean and stuff like that. Over here to Africa, to Europe, to the Americas, to Africa. It's just going to keep going. Certain things you can see on these routes here that will go to different places. You can kind of follow along, like the enslaved people coming all along here. Do understand eventually the enslaved people is going to come up to what we know of as the United States also. So that's going to happen on the triangular trade. But on this one here, you're not trading disease. So on L to J, make sure you understand. That's why that's the Columbian Exchange and not triangular trade. All right. Now what happens here? Or go ahead and answer your question about the triangular trade. Okay. Now, the Atlantic slave trade was a major part of this trade network. The Portuguese, the Dutch, and the English were all active in this slave trade. Remember, Portugal's right here. The Dutch are going to be right up in this area, and then right here, of course, is your England. Slavery had been practiced in many places, including Africa, long before Europeans came. But the Atlantic slave trade was different in its size and in its process. European traders crammed enslaved Africans on ships for the long voyage to the Americas. They chained people together, often without enough food or water. People got sick and many died, and that is a problem. So many will die as they go across the ocean here. It might take 5-6 weeks that they're just down there in the bottom of that ship. It's a horrible, horrible thing. Between the late 1500s and early 1800s, Europeans shipped millions of enslaved Africans to colonies in the New World. Most of these people were sent to South America and to the Caribbean. So over the tens of millions that are going to come from Africa, actually most of them will come down here into South America and into the Caribbean. But that's understandable because it's in South America where they first started this process of plantations and things like that. The Caribbean, they were big in sugar. Cotton plantations, stuff like that, and they very, very laborious type of plantation work. And then, yes, the American colonies eventually will, for a good 200 years, have the the slave trade from Africa. That will go from maybe the mid 1600s to the late 1700s. So a little bit over 150 years or so, the African slave trade. All right, so go ahead and answer that last question there, that why did the slave trade occur between Europe, Africa, and the Americas? And then we're going to end this portion of the video, and I'll start up another video for the rest of this lesson. All right, thanks, guys.